This is the greatest formation in PES Club Manager, and in this video I'll explain all the things that you need to understand from this formation or tactics. So this formation is inspired by three teams. It is heavily inspired by Liverpool 1819, Barcelona 1011, and Lille 2021. Part 1. What is the formation and the tactics? So the formation look like this. There is one goalkeeper, of course. There is 4 in defense, 3 in midfield, and 3 in attack. And in some other variation, there is 4 in midfield, and also there is 2 in attack. But we're gonna talk about the variation in part 2. So this is the the tactics. The attacking style is a position game. Build up is a short pass. The attacking area is wide. The defensive style is frontline pressure, and the pressuring is aggressive. The strategies: positioning is flexible, support range medium, number in attack medium, short corner on and off it's fine, and then the containment area is middle. Defensive line is high or medium, both are fine, but if you wanna be more attacking, pick high. If you wanna be more defensive, pick medium. And number in defense is many. You know, I'm not that where I put players on attack as many and at defense many. I am the kind of guy that's kind of balance it out, because if I put on attack many and on defense many, they'll use a lot of stamina, right? They will consume stamina, and it's bad if your stamina run out. Offside trap is off, and the last 4 is your option. Now I want you to look at the positioning of the attacking midfield and also the center forward. Those two have to be on those specific place or position, I guess. Why? Because for example, if you put the attacking midfield like in this area, in the middle, for example, the way he will play will be different than, for example, if you put them like in these wide areas. Why? Because when you put them like on this wide area, they'll cover this kind of area, like a right midfield, left midfield, basically more wide, but also sometimes act like an attacking midfield as well. Now you might ask why. Well, I think it's because the way you put the attacking midfield, it's basically close to this right midfield, left midfield position, so they will kinda act like the right midfield, the wide midfielder, and sometimes act like a normal attacking midfield. So for example, if you put the attacking midfield on this, middle, like an only number 10, they'll only play on the middle. It's weird, but that's how it works. And same goes for the center forward as well. If you put the center forward on this position, they'll literally play on the defender, literally like in the center back. But if you put it here, like in almost wide, they'll play like on this position where he is on between the fullback and then between the center back. That's what we want. Why? Because they will act like this kind of inside forward, but they're not a winger, they're a center forward, which means they're better at shooting and better at heading as well. And a quick side note, the most important, player are the center back and then the defensive midfield. Why? Well, because we'll be playing like a very attacking style, like Liverpool 1819. I mean, we have to have someone like Van Dijk, someone who is very good at defending. Part 1.5. Player playing style. This system has to have a specific playing style for players to maximize the entire system. The goalkeeper can have any role. Defensive or offensive goalkeeper is fine, and the center back can have any role: destroyer, build up, extra frontman. But in fullback, please use offensive fullback, because we want our fullback to cross like a lot, like Liverpool 1819, and that's why we don't want a defensive fullback. Inverted fullback is not bad, but it's also not good. And also, I've never used a crossing specialist. Theoretically, it'll be good because it's a cross specialist and we want a fullback to cross a lot. Defensive midfield can be any role, but I really recommend a destroyer, because for example, if there's a counter attack, he can stop it, I guess, most of the time. I don't know if this is true, but if there is a defensive midfield box to box, don't ever use it. But if you want to use it when you know you are winning. Use it when you know you are gonna win the match, before the match begins. The attacking midfield, I highly recommend whole player. What I mean like whole player is like any any player. Like for example, if you know Arshavin, he's a whole player and he's also a winger, right? But in this system, you can use Arshavin as an attacking midfield. Why? Because he's a whole player. His playing style is a whole player, and that's what we want. Why do I need a whole player? Because whole player usually just run, like run behind the center midfield, and one of the variation will cross to the box, and that's why we need a whole player. Box to box is decent but not good because their offensive capabilities are just not as good as a whole player. And the other role, which is classic number 10, theoretically sounds good, but I've never tried it because there aren't that many, number 10. Maybe it'll be good. And the last playing style, which is creative playmaker, it's not good. Use that role on the second striker, not on the attacking midfield. And then the next one is the second striker. Second striker is the key of your offense in this team, because it is basically like a false 9. False 9, Messi false 9 in Barcelona 10-11. I want the false 9 to shoot, pass, and then dribble. And I think the perfect role for the second striker is a prolific winger. You might think this is very weird, like putting a winger on a second striker. It doesn't make any sense, right? But it actually works. A prolific winger, and I never tried a roaming winger, but theoretically it sounds good. And also, because it's a prolific winger, they can usually dribble. Like they're usually very good at dribbling, passing it's sometimes are, and shooting also. It's pretty good, and that's what we want. We want a false 9 that is good at shooting and also dribble. And as I talked earlier, creative playmaker is also decent. The problem with that role is usually that role is like they're a playmaker, they're not someone to shoot. It's decent, but it's also not good. I've never used a dummy runner. It sounds kinda decent, but I don't think it is good. And the last one is a center forward. The absolute best one is a goal poacher. So basically, we want a center forward to basically run behind the defense, not a center forward that receive the pass. We don't want a center forward that drop between the lines. That's not what we want. We want a center forward to receive the ball behind the defense. And the second best is Fox in the box, because in this team we usually cross a lot. Fox in the box is usually very good at heading. Target man, it sounds good. Some target men tends to drop really deep, like deep in the midfield. Fox in the box sometimes drops in the midfield, but not that deep. If the center forward drop deeps, usually there is a second striker to cover up, to be the second center forward, because the other center forward is dropping deep and acting like an attacking midfield or like a second striker. For example, if the center forward pass the ball to like a fullback on the other side, and then they try to cross, and then the crosses is intended to a second striker, that'll be bad, because usually most of second striker are not really good at heading. Some are, but probably they're not as good as like a normal center forward. Part 2, the variation. So there is basically I divide this formation by 2, and then divide them again by 2. So there is 4 variation. Now you might ask, why is there a variation, on this team? Well, because I want to make a more defensive side on this team and more attacking side of this team. So I guess the first divide is an attacking midfield and a second striker. Basically, if I want to play more attackingly, I'll play a second striker because they're usually more willingly to go in the box to the ball to the goal. But if I want to play defensively, I'll change the second striker to an attacking midfielder, because when we're defending, if we play a second striker, we'll defend in a 4-3-3. But when I play an attacking midfield, we'll play on a 4-4-2, and basically 4 in midfield versus 3 in midfield, it's better at defensively. By the way, sometimes it is very weird to put like a prolific winger on attacking midfield, but yeah, it works for me. So that's the first variation, which is the attacking midfield and then the second striker. And the other variation as well is the wide attacking midfield and then the half space attacking midfield. If you don't know what half space is, I recommend this video by Football Made Simple. Basically, the wide attacking midfield is, I'm putting this attacking midfield on this specific area, the 2 attacking midfield, and then in the half spaces I put the attacking midfield right here, like right there. Yeah. Why? Because I already explained this on part. It is a tiny difference, but the way they play, it's such a huge difference. if I play the attacking midfield on those wide attacking midfield area, which is right here, they'll play more like a right midfield or a left midfield, but sometimes can also play at those half spaces. And this attacking midfield will really likely to cross the ball to the center forward, which means it's more offensive because the fullback is going there as well, and then the attacking midfield also is there as well. So there is two guys on those wide areas to cross. And then in the half space attacking midfield, they hardly do crosses. What they'll do is they'll support the left. Basically, because the attacking midfield is right here, they'll sometimes draw the defenders, draw the fullback to come in closer, so our fullback can overlap and do a cross. That's the difference. Part 3. How the formation and tactic works. Basically, 101 is the center forwards position between the center back and the full, and then the attacking midfield is basically between the wide midfield, which is the right midfield and the left midfield, and the center midfield. And then the second striker and defensive midfield is basically between the lines. Because the second striker is between the line, second striker can either pass the ball or shoot himself. So let's talk about the variation. There is second striker attacking midfield, wide attacking midfield, half space attacking midfield. So we combine both of them. There is the second striker and half space, second striker wide attacking midfield, and then half space attacking midfield, and then attacking midfield, wide attacking midfield. It is super weird, but it really does works. It really works. So the first variation is the second striker and half space attacking midfield. In this formation, we rely on fullback to cross because the attacking midfield, he will support the fullback to make a cross. Fullback tends to lose a lot of energy in this variation, and theoretically, sometimes the attacking midfield will pass the ball to the center forward, and just score a goal, but that hardly ever happens. And also because it is the second striker can also join the cross as well, to head it in. So there is 3 men in that zone, in that box, and that's what we want. We want number in the box. And the second variation is the second striker wide attacking midfield. So this one is the most offensive formation out of the 4. Why? Well, because the attacking midfield will help the cross, will do most of the crosses, and the second striker, will come and join the crosses as well, And yeah, it is the most offensive, and also it's the least defensive. Why? Because when the attacking midfield do crosses, they will tend to leave, this area very open. So that means the other team can counterattack, and that's why we need a very good center back and defensive midfield, because they will stop the counterattack. Oh, by the way, in this variation, I recommend the defensive line to be high, because to compact the space, so counterattacking is harder. And the third variation, which is the attacking midfield and half space attacking midfield. This one is the most defensive out of 4, because we'll defend in a 4-4-2, and then the attacking midfield is not on those wide area. They won't really do cross, but they'll just support the cross. They will support the fullback so the fullback can cross. So in defending, it is the most solid one. And also because we're playing an attacking midfield, not a second striker, we get more control in the middle area. So sometimes maybe if you wanna change the tactics, so the playing area is the middle, not the wide anymore, maybe that will work. I never tried it, but theoretically it sounds good. And also and the last variation is the attacking midfield and half space attacking midfield. It's the second most defensive because it's a 4-4-2 in defense. To summarize this up, basically, if you pick a second striker, it'll be more offensive. But if you pick an attacking midfield, and so it's better defensively because when defending, you're on a 4-4-2, not a 4-3-3. And if you pick wide attacking midfield, it'll be more offensive because they'll cross a lot, but will leave some gap behind. But if you pick the half space attacking midfield, they'll support the overlapping fullback to cross. The bad thing about this formation is you have to play specific playing style for players. And also, if the opponents have a very good counter-attacking strats, you're kinda, you're sometimes. And I don't know if this is true. I think it also wastes a lot of stamina as well. So yeah, that is it. The greatest attacking formation and tactic in PES Club Manager. If you have constructive criticism, please leave it on the comments. Maybe you think this formation is bad, please tell me why, so I can improve on this formation. And don't forget to like and subscribe as well to my channel, so so you can see more quality content like this one. And yeah, see you next time.
Ora, ora. Gak,